Right, my name is George Kinnan. I'm the husband of my wife Usha Kinnan, who's 74 years old, has suffered from rheumatoid arthritis for decades, has a lot of pain and needs care, and increasingly needs care both day and night. My wife became less and less able to walk and needed help to go to the toilet, needed help to get out of bed, and this gradually deteriorated until she needed a lot more care than I could provide. My main concern was that somebody came into the house that was a friendly face who established a relationship with my wife. I didn't want a successor of strangers coming in, none of whom actually knew her as a person. We started by my asking the local council for a list of approved care agencies, and I phoned several of them and decided to go with a particular agency, and we stayed with them for some time, and then I became increasingly unhappy with them, and then suddenly they terminated their provision of care out of the blue with no warning whatsoever. So I then had to try and find another agency. I found another agency, and then they failed to turn up. So I found a third agency, and we had good service from them until my wife deteriorated further. At that stage, they said they could only provide a carer within limited circumstances. I happened at that time to see an advertisement in the local Village Voice free newspaper, and I saw this advert for people called Home Instead, whom I'd never heard of, but I then went on the internet and had a look at the website, liked what I saw, and got in touch with Home Instead. She's a very independent person, but she recognised that she needed care and that occasionally we had problems when I was providing the sole care. We occasionally had problems, like I could not get her to the toilet in time. Sometimes she would fall, and our only answer then was to dial 999 and get the ambulance service to help us. No, she recognised it was necessary, but she wanted to make sure that the carers who came in were known to her. Yes, it has, because what we now have is a support team who know me, who know my wife, and while there have been changes in the personnel, on each occasion Home Instead have introduced the new person, and every time it's been a wise choice, and we've had no problems accepting the new carer. About 3 weeks ago, my wife went to the day surgery unit at Kingston Hospital, and one of the nurses helping there asked if I was using a care agency. And I said yes, I was, and she said, well, I'm not happy with the care agency I'm using. Are you happy with your care agency? I said yes, certainly. And I had no hesitation in giving her the phone number and the name of the person to contact at Home Instead in Kingston. My experience of Home Instead is that over the months that we've been dealing with them, they are not just interested in providing a carer and charging for that. They're interested in helping my wife and therefore helping me. They are interested in finding out how they can best fit into our lifestyle and not intrude upon that lifestyle more than they have to. And they have been very helpful in trying to find solutions to our difficulties as our difficulties have increased, because my wife has deteriorated in the last few months, and I have found every time I've needed more assistance, more help, Home Instead are always there, more than willing, more than able to help. Let me tell you something, doesn't have to be on the record at all, but recently I upped the amount of care I'm getting from Home Instead. I'm now getting them to provide a waking night carer, and she came along, was introduced during the day, came at night, and she's been now I think 3 or 4 times. Well, she was there on Sunday night, so off she went at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. I got the GP in to see my wife, who said I want to get her into hospital. That was either Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. It turned out to be Tuesday morning. I phoned home instead and said, here's an impossible demand. Can you get Patricia to come back for a second night running? I know she's got 2 young children and it's asking an awful lot. Well, the short answer was Patricia came that night and she was really very helpful, allowed me to get some sleep prior to quite a tiring day at the hospital. And when I got home from the hospital at 8:30 at night, 2 minutes after I got in, my mobile phone rang. I thought that was one of my daughters. It wasn't, it was Patricia, phoning to say, how is you, wife? Which I thought was fantastic. I make the criteria. If you go and do your food shopping in Marks, you pay over the standard rate, but you get over the standard quality. And I think Home Instead is similar. You pay more per hour here than you would for the other agencies we were paying for. But it's worth it. Yes, one that sticks in mind because it's very recent is that we started having a carer come to spend the waking night to look after my wife while I got some sleep. That was very recent. A lady came and was introduced just during the day, came at night, and I got on well with her. My wife seemed very happy with her. So after about 3 or 4 occasions, it happened that she came on a Sunday night. On the Monday morning, the GP came round, decided my wife ought to go into hospital the next morning. I felt I needed another good night's sleep. So I telephoned Home Instead and said, here is an unreasonable demand. Can you get the carer to come back for a second night running? I'm aware she has young children and may not get much rest, but it would be very, very helpful. And sure enough, they got her to come the second night running. The next morning I went off to the hospital. I didn't get home till 8:30 at night. Shortly after getting home, my mobile phone rang. I thought it would be one of my daughters, but in fact it was that carer phoning to find out what had happened and how my wife was. And I thought that showed exceptional care and commitment. I needed help because my wife, who is now 74, was deteriorating. She'd had decades of rheumatoid arthritis, had suffered a fall and had great difficulty with mobility. And it grew to the point where I could not cope on my own. So I looked for agency to help me. I really wasn't keen to have somebody else coming in, but we had no choice. I could not cope on my own because the need was both day and night. Initially I went to another agency who was on the approved list from the local council, and we used them for some months. But suddenly they withdrew their support with no notice and left us in quite a difficult situation. I then went to another agency who supported us, and they were fine for a time, but as my wife deteriorated, they indicated that they could no longer provide the care we wanted. We felt that some carers were very good and other carers were not good. In fact, when one particular carer turned up on the doorstep, my wife burst into tears, and that indicated how difficult it was to get the right person to come and give the appropriate care. I had experience of several local care companies. I could have kept finding another one and see if they were any good. We had already been using other care companies, 2 of whom let us down and gave us quite a big problem when suddenly we had no care agency available. And I was fortunate to notice an advertisement in the local Village Voice magazine, which was from people I'd never heard of, Home Instead. So I looked on the internet, liked what I saw on the website, and decided to contact Home Instead. Since we started using Home Instead, we have felt we have almost an extension to our family in that they care about us and they provide caregivers who also care about us and who build up a relationship. From my point of view, it's essential that I can go and sleep with total confidence that the care given to my wife is good and the person has a good relationship with my wife. Now that I'm using Home Instead more, it also gives me the freedom to leave the house during the day and go out to the shops. Because as a carer, 24 hours, 7 days a week, you are effectively trapped. And without proper support, there is no relief, there is no way of escaping. One occasion I'd like to tell you about is when my wife had a problem and wet the bed and everything was wet. And I was getting close to the end of my tether by then. And my wife simply said, "Phone Home Instead." This was in the middle of the afternoon. So I phoned Home Instead and said, was there by any chance a carer sitting around twiddling her thumbs, not knowing what to do with herself? And half an hour later, a carer turned up at the door and gave us the support we wanted with no notice whatsoever. It doesn't matter who answers the phone. I don't really have to give my name, I always do. But I think as soon as they hear my voice, they say, "Oh God, it's that man again." But it doesn't matter whether it's Rebecca who answers the phone or Mandy or Tony or Julie. The relationship is there and it's good.
Yeah.
And the reaction I always feel is, how can we help? That nurse in the hospital, her father was living at home. This lady said, "I will not put him into a home.
Yes.
I want to look after him with care, but I'm just not happy with the agency." Yeah. And I had no hesitation of saying, "Right, well, drop your agency, go to Home Instead."
Yes.
Phone Claire, go and meet Claire,
Yeah.
and I'm sure she can help you. No, I find every member of the staff, either in the office or the caregivers, or the senior staff here, Claire and Julie,
Yeah.
they're absolutely wonderful.